Okay, we're going to look at common factoring here. So we'll start with the very first one. These are pretty simple common factoring questions. We'll tackle these and we'll get into maybe a little more difficult ones as we go through. When we're looking for common factors, essentially you have two really major things you want to talk about. One of them, actually, there we go. This will work better with this. We talk about the coefficient, which is in front of the variable, and then we talk about the variable itself. So think of them as like two separate identities. They technically together are one term. This has two terms, okay? In this case, though, we're going to think about this term as having pieces of it, two different pieces of the set or subsets. We're going to focus on the coefficients to start. So our two coefficients, we have 14 and 7. A lot of times, a way to tackle this is to actually take out those two coefficients on the side, and you're going to be looking for the GCF. Okay, this is known as the greatest common factor. So one way to do it is to list all of the factors. You might very quickly see the answer to this, but let's say they're pretty large numbers and your mental math doesn't really extend that far. You can list all the factors, and the best thing to do for common factoring is to try to take the largest one. You can technically do this by taking small factors, not the greatest common factor, and then continuously going over the process. But if you do want to do it in one step, the greatest common factor is fastest. So 7 is a prime number, so we very quickly exhaust that. And 14 very quickly gives us 2. Obviously, you can take 1 out of anything, so it's not a great version, but we can take 7 out of this. So we're going to for sure be taking 14m cubed plus 7m, and we're going to be dividing both of these by the value of 7. The next part is we got to figure out how many variables to also take out. So the variables, we can actually set up the same way. There's m cubed and m. Again, we're taking the greatest common factor, but visually it's probably simpler to look at it like this. How do I make m cubed? Well, I take m and I multiply by m, and then I multiply by m, okay? There's 3 m's. And to make just m itself, I just have 1m. In this case, we're just going to take out the same number of m's. So in this case, I only have 1 below, so I can only divide by 1 of the m's. So in other words, I'm going to say m to the power of 1. We don't normally write power of 1 here. We can, in this case, just give it a point, but we're going to divide by 7m. So that's how we know what the greatest common factor for this is. When we do that, that 7m becomes the term in front of the brackets, and the terms left inside the brackets. 14 divided 7 gives you 2, and m cubed divided by m to the power of 1. You subtract the powers, so 3 minus 1 gives you 2, so you get m squared. Okay, and in the other case, 7 divided 7 is just 1. I don't technically have to write it in. And m divided m is just 1. So I do have to write this actually, and I kind of lied. This ends up being think of it like 1 times 1. And we know 1 times 1 is just 1, so we're left with the value of just 1 in this case. So this is our common factored value. Okay, let's try it a little quicker on the second one here. We have 6x squared plus 4x. Just looking at it, I can tell you very quickly that the greatest common factor here is going to be the value of 2. So I'm going to take the coefficient 2. And in terms of my exponent, well, I just looked for the exponent with the lowest power. That's in all of the terms. So there's only 2 terms here, and the exponent with the lowest power is x1. So I'm just going to take x, okay? So we said before, that becomes the term on the outside of the brackets. We have our 2x in this case. And then on the inside of the brackets, we just work with our division. 6 divided by 2 is 3. And x squared divided by x is just x. And over here, positive 4 divided by 2 is positive 2. X divided by x is just 1. So it would be 2 times 1. We don't have to write that 1 in, so we just leave it as